Heritage Tree.
It's doing the Zoom thing, it's getting all.
Yeah, I understand. So the technology has to all link up. Okay, I'd like to go ahead and call to order the Tree Advisory Commission meeting on Monday, May 13th, 2024 at 5 p.m. Could I have a roll call?
Chair Cheney,
Present.
Commissioner Sakat,
Yes.
Commissioner Clark. Here. Commissioner King. Here. Commissioner Sanish. Here. Thank you.
I see no one in the gallery for public comment. Have any other comments been submitted either online or written?
There have been no written comments. And there's no one online.
Thank you very much. Next on is the approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve tonight's agenda?
Is that, I think I have a motion to approve.
Yes.
Second.
Yes. So moved from Kelsey, seconded from Bridget. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That was 5-0. Okay. Next is approval of the minutes. Any corrections or notes about the minutes from our last meeting? Yes. Hearing none, could I have a motion to approve the minutes? Yes.
Second.
So I've got moved by Mohammed and second by Bridget to approve the minutes. Seeing no other discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Then next is unfinished business. And so I had the tree commission work plan just included in there for our reference. So that you can see we are working through that. I didn't think we needed to discuss it at all. It was just there in case there was a discussion about the agenda. So with that, I'd like to move right ahead to comprehensive plan contributions. And first, I'd like to open it up to staff if they have any information for us after our last conversation about that to discuss.
Yes, and I had hoped to have some materials for you and I didn't manage to get those done. I'm sorry, but so the way that we've talked about the role of the tree commission in really helping to form the tree preservation goals and policies in the comprehensive plan, and it would be amending the natural environment chapter in the comprehensive plan. And I started thinking about what would those steps look like and what would our tasks be. And really, we've talked about needing to have that inventory piece. And I think that that is a database that is available to us without having to go through and do a lot of our own data work. But then the thing that I believe is important to do, and it's something that I would look to you all is to actually select a coverage goal. So there's a suggested, when we get that inventory information, what is the coverage that we have here? And of course, there's, ideas on what would be ideal, but we have to look at that in a realistic manner based on our build out and our future development, and come up with what you all think would be a reasonable tree canopy coverage goal to actually put into the comprehensive plan section that we're writing, because that to me feels like that's going to kind of really set the standard for how we move forward and how we actually evaluate based on whether or not development is, um, you know, it depends where you start with your goal, of course. I mean,
Right.
if we're starting with a deficit goal, then that drives us in one direction.
Right.
And so I think that that is something that I would like for us to work on. The other one is a task that is the narrative piece. So I did some looking, Snohomish County is one that gets a lot of credit. And they have some nice language that I think we could just sort of lift and borrow. And if you are open to that, bringing that, forward so that you could all review it and I feel like that gets us started anyway. And that's really about all I have for you tonight on this.
Okay. So did I hear you say that you'd lift that language from the Snohomish County?
Yeah.
And you could bring us to that, the next meeting
Yes,
as kind of, and
like
the
here you
format
go.
that's
It's
commensurate
it's
for-
pretty wordy, but
for
it's
the-
good. And with Snohomish County, because it's because it's county and they have rural basically farm and tree
Right,
farms that we don't,
Yeah.
we might want to wordsmith it a little bit to make
Yeah.
it fit
Right,
us.
yeah.
But yes, I
But
will
yeah,
bring,
I'd just love to look at
yeah,
what other people are doing.
Yeah.
It's sometimes it annoys me but most of the time it's good to know what other
Right.
people are doing instead of reinventing the wheel, for sure.
and that was the one when I was looking up that just seemed to be the most progressive that
Okay.
I could find. Of course, if anybody sees something else for us to look at, let me know. Is your,
I know MRSC has 3 different ones they recommend, but I want to say, was Snoqualmie the one that was recommended to me by the Olympia guys?
okay,
I know it begins with S.
Oh,
So I think that,
I think you
isn't
had
it-
mentioned Snoqualmie at the
Yeah.
previous.
okay.
Yeah.
So I really think
that's-
our starting point is to just kind of the text, that the intro text to our kind of our new header in the natural environment for tree
Right.
preservation, tree canopy, and starting out with the the narrative, and then being able to state in there that our goal for coverage is
Right.
this.
yes. Do you have any percentage data on what the current canopy is?
We do, and Bridget and I will maybe we can get together and pull that up again. We looked at it a while ago.
we looked at it for the grant, and there's some areas where we're definitely lacking.
You remember the number?
We don't have a one for the entire, as I recall, there isn't one for the entire city, but different parts of the city are on the map with their canopy coverage. So,
And so do you have, well, you were working with that one person there.
mhm.
So maybe I'll just reach out and see if maybe they have some way to give us a better,
So the State Department of Urban Forestry has, the State Department of Natural Resources has an urban forestry section. And I would suggest go to them for
maybe
the
they could,
data
yeah.
that would be like the most up to date based off of aerial photography and or LiDAR data.
Yeah,
'Cause
They
I'm-
have that, I can't think of that guy's name. It was Bill down there. He said, I'm like, you got it, give it to us, because they've already done it. And they said we need like an arborist or some kind of professional to interpret it.
oh,
So,
So that's probably true of the latest data, but I know they shared some percentage numbers with Stillicombe that historically meaning the last 10 to 15 years, which not like way back, but enough to show which way is it trending and to have a baseline to inform what would be a reasonable coverage goal.
Right.
And then the other, the other comments that I've heard, from, preservation people about an urban tree canopy goal. So there's two things. So one is measuring it can be difficult if that
Mhm.
is the goal. Because there's a lot of technology and technical stuff that goes into the measurement. And then the other thing is, so for those that might take the goal very seriously and want to be precise, that can be kind of an issue
Uh-huh.
sometimes. You can really get in the weeds and the data and interpretation. And then, but at the other extreme is the realization that, hey, it's just a goal, something to strive for.
Right.
So we should make it, maybe not based on what it is right now, but what we aspire to be.
Mm-hmm.
There's actually a evidence-based science goal for climate adaptation and protection, like from heat domes and things like that. And I want to say, so the science-based is 30, I'm trying to remember from the grant, but it's like 35%. And then we set our goal, I was just look back at it. We're great, we love trees, was going to be 50%. So 50% coverage is a lot. But it's 30, I mean, if we can get 50%, that would be great. But the science starts definitely at 30, and I want to say it's 35. So there are research papers out there showing what you need to keep yourself, we want to stay, we're approaching zone 9, I think, and we want to stay in like 8.5, right? And if we want to keep our trees, we want to keep our oaks and everything, we need to stay where we're at. So we need this buffer zone, and we need to follow the science. That's what I think, at the minimum. And then we want some buffer on top of that. And that's why I said I was so concerned that all the development's going to occur prior to us having fleshed this all out. So, but it is, I know it's weird, but there's science papers out there. People have already done it. So I say we follow the science.
Yeah, and if you can, anything that you may have a link to, just send it to me.
It's
So
in
we
my
can-
comments on the Old Fort Lake. that's what I was
Okay.
looking on here. Remember, I
Okay.
didn't put Old Fort Lake in, but if I find it, I'll resend it because I looked all that stuff up for Old Fort Lake.
Right.
And that's the low 30s percentage was what I had recalled reading somewhere,
30.
as well as kind of the standard aspirational goal
Mhm.
for what gets you the most benefit without running into diminishing returns.
Okay.
But again, that's just general recollection.
Yeah.
Of reading lots of things, not a particular study or someone.
Yeah, I mean, I
figure this
think
out.
since you all are kind of like more plugged in probably than I am, it's,
Right, yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
you're
and
thinking
understand
more,
that's why
you're
we're
more
here.
focused. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I'm just wondering if, and then if you can just feed me things in an email, just say like, hey, here's a good report, here's a link to something that I just read,
Okay,
then
Yeah.
that would help tremendously, because then I don't have to try to, do all that
Right.
research.
gotcha.
Yeah, and
Yes.
then put something together and bring it forward for us to,
Yeah,
yeah,
okay, and so any of us could do that.
yeah.
And then, if we do that, then you could pluck whatever you think.
Pluck it out and bring it
You'd
forward.
like to get consensus around.
Yeah.
For a future meeting. And then-
Yeah, exactly.
Great.
Thank you.
And then there was one other thing I wanted to bring up, with regard to the comprehensive plan contribution. And that was the Tree City USA standard for, at standard 2. So I believe that was in the packet, right?
Mhm.
And so, let me get to that page myself. Here it is. So the public tree care ordinance. So there's, and this could be, I'm bringing this up, just to express a concern that I have in particular, when I review the city of DuPont's tree preservation, code and the development code. And so if we're gonna be a Tree City USA standards, the standard is a public tree care ordinance. And so the second paragraph under this Tree City standard is a key section of a qualifying ordinance is one that assigns authority over public trees. And I think what the tree retention code does is a little bit different, except in the case of street trees. So when the tree retention code under the applicability says this chapter shall apply to street trees throughout the city and to all new development projects that require a site plan. So the development piece, I think the city does a very good job of covering with that section. But that doesn't apply to like trees in the park or trees in other public spaces. There are a lot of city-owned lands around that aren't developed. And so it says qualifying ordinances will provide clear guidance for planting, maintaining, or removing trees from streets, which is done, but also parks and other public spaces. And so part of, I brought this up under the comprehensive plan redo, because I think to address that, step one would be to say, in the comprehensive plan, this is something we aspire to do.
I agree. I mean, that's really the kind of the vocalization of where we're really weak, which we know we're really weak. And good point about because I was sort of focused on we in our ordinance, well, our goals and policies are just really weak, number one. And then in the ordinance that we have, as you pointed out, we're talking about new development. Well, I was always thinking, but we don't have much there that talks about, existing development and trees. So in a
Right.
new
And it-
development, you say you've got to have whatever it is, but then once that is sold and moved on, then we don't really have anything that a continuation of protecting what we put in place when we permitted the development to begin with.
So when I
Yeah.
read it, I saw some language that actually was pretty strong in terms of continuing the protection from a development. But I don't know, sometimes I don't like always read things the way they're supposed to be interpreted and so forth.
But this
So-
is good, the point about the city-owned land.
Right,
And so
yeah,
that
so
would be-
I think that's
yeah.
a definite, like, when I look at the Tree City USA standard, I'm like, I can't say what I see in the tree retention code meets the Tree City USA with confidence. right
Uh-huh.
now. I mean, I could be convinced otherwise, but do any of the other members, I've been talking a lot, I want to hear from the other members of the commission.
I mean, I just think if we're putting the work into it, we might as well make sure that we're covering all of those so that it's clear. And then even, the things that we've been talking about, like the street tree responsibility, I don't know if that is something that would go into the comprehensive plan as well, but just making sure all of those things are really clear going forward, especially if it's the Tree City USA standards. So as a minimum, we should.
Yeah, because I
definitely
don't
have
know
that.
if you've even adopted that as a policy in the comprehensive plan.
Right.
It's kind of a big miss if it actually, right?
Mhm.
So, yeah, there's some real low hanging fruit that we can take on. And,
Yeah. And so it could, like, I don't know if the language of a goal for the comprehensive plan could be to develop a tree care ordinance that is broadly applicable outside of the development process.
that's one of the things I was looking at, and I was hesitant to bring that forward just simply um, because a tree care program is going to be another. So I feel like we need to try to do as much as we can possibly do realistically within the confines of the staffing levels and resources
Right.
that we have, right?
Yeah.
And so when I started looking at that, I was like, oh gosh, that sounds great, but how is it going to be run? How's it going to be managed? Who's gonna, how is that going to work? And that's why I sort
Right,
of,
yeah, and so I'm not,
yeah,
at this point, I'm not saying a program, I'm saying just some policy.
I agree.
That lays out some guardrails.
I agree.
And the comprehensive plan is a 10-year document or something.
20,
right?
yeah.
Oh, 20,
Yep, yep.
so.
No,
so
that's good.
It's, to me, it's just an acknowledgement, hey, we need to do this.
Yeah.
It's step one that says, let's do this
And now,
better.
yeah, exactly.
And in the future, right, so.
And so I just think that this is a good start. And again, any one of you in preparation for the next meeting, I don't know if Chair Cheney, you want people to be sending that to you and then forwarding to me. I'm perfectly fine if the other members are just want to shoot off an email and say, here, I found this really great goal or policy that I think would work for us. Then I can compile all that and bring it forward.
Yeah, if I'm comfortable with it proceeding that way, and then you can collate the best. Cause in the end, it's the town staff that has to do it, right? And then put in the agenda, we can put it in the agenda for reading for our next discussion on the comp plan.
Yeah, I think that's a great approach for us.
And then if there's any, and then at that time, once we've kind of ironed that out a little bit, we would make a formal recommendation for saying that we approve this or that, or want to do this.
Right. And I
Okay.
would see us going through the exercise of really having that new draft chapter with a lead-in narrative and the goals and policies. And that would go forward as a recommendation from the Tree Commission to the Planning Commission. And then it becomes part of that natural environment chapter that they're all working on. They're just starting tonight, actually, to start looking at the guiding concepts or guiding principles that underpin the whole plan. And so it's very timely to be folding this through. And then once the comprehensive plan, the goal and policy part of it gets done, then we're going to want to address the ordinance language.
Right.
Mhm.
So with that, are there any other member comments or discussion on comprehensive plan? Then next on the agenda, as soon as I find my agenda papers. Next is heritage tree procedures. So I wrote up a draft of the heritage tree procedures that I thought might work. So does anyone else have any observations, inputs, corrections, additions, deletions? Does it sound like it works for you?
I think it's all covered there. Looks good to me. I think the next step would just be, like we said, maybe we could do a nomination just to like see how the process goes. And I was even just thinking the moon tree at Chloe Clark isn't on the heritage tree list, so maybe we could fill one out, like a nomination for the moon tree, just to like see how the process goes. I think that that would be really good in case we needed to iron anything out.
Yeah, and then, and so I'll just add a couple of comments about my word choice, just for information. So under number 2, it says the chair will attempt to verify ownership using Pierce County GIS. I think if somewhere that's not kind of mentioned in here, but I think is mentioned on the form is, do we have permission from the owner if it's not? And so I crafted this carefully so that a tree commissioner is not contacting a citizen to verify permission. I thought that should be appropriately done at the official level by someone on the city staff and not an individual commissioner. So I just wanted to mention that for clarification on why it's that way. And then the other thing was like, I think it's really good to have like some summary documentation about why it's a heritage tree to record in the database, and that to spread that out amongst the tree commission rather than just one person responsible for that, is that there's got to be the nominations and a motion made. And so the commissioner that makes the motion for a tree has some responsibility in the documentation. And so it doesn't get all put on one person. And so, yeah, those were my comments. So it sounds like we're all pretty satisfied with it. So do we need a motion for this? Does that be appropriate, or do
Yeah, I mean, I think you're gonna approve this document and that we would want to put this up on the website with the
Right.
form. Yeah.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes. And I communicated with the other staff member there, Janet, about using the Public Works email address on the form.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's and then it can just get passed over to
Yeah.
the tree commission chair when there is one. And so, so with that, yeah, if whichever member wants to nominate the moon tree, you can fill out the form and send it to Janet, and then we'll move forward with that process.
And the form has been finalized already, right?
Yes,
The nomination form was finalized last
Yeah.
month.
the program guide and the form.
Yeah.
We finalized.
Right, so I will get those on the website. I was just holding off until,
We
Right.
had a
you know,
discussion,
everything was
right?
more finalized.
Yeah, yeah. And then we could, and then the heritage tree procedures. I think the procedure document should be on the website too.
Yeah,
So the public understands
yeah.
if they want to make a nomination, it's a
I
few month
agree.
process for it to go through.
Mhm. Yep,
Okay.
it's good.
Next on the agenda is the farmers market participation and handouts. We're making great progress. So there is the list there of dates to remind us when we can participate. And then there was a poster submission. Maybe Kelsey, you can talk about that poster. I
So-
haven't seen the actual poster.
Yeah, I know, and I thought I had a picture of it, but I can send you a picture of it. I have the poster. So I made a poster for the Moon Tree event, and it had some tree care stuff on that because we just kind of wanted to get that information out as extra. And so I thought that that would be a good one. There's also a there's that poster, there's the Moon Tree poster, and then there's a Heritage Tree poster. So all three. But I think definitely the Heritage Tree poster and then the tree care poster. The tree care poster mainly just talks about why trees are important and some really basic tree care items on there. And then the Heritage Tree has different native trees on it. And then we still have all of the papers that we brought to the walk, but I know the city printed out a stack for the Moon Tree and we still haven't gone through very much, so I figured we could bring those. And then I also found just a basic like tree watering and care. And then on the Arbor Day Foundation, they had tree care tips and techniques, the power of trees, and the same one got printed. And then there was another one which I thought had to do with watering, but I think I might have forgot to change the name when I sent it because they both say the power of trees, but one's different. But those are just QR codes that people could scan. And then the only other thing that I could think of that we might want to have ready for discussion is just really nailing down anything that we've been talking about, you know, who's responsible for trees, all of that, in case we have to answer any of those questions, just maybe having like some of those top questions that we've been asked, maybe haven't really been asked questions, but if any of you all have been asked questions by community members in general, just like a FAQ little guidance so that we have that written down. And then maybe like maybe we could do some sort of question submission and or write down questions that people have if they're things that we can't answer to bring back to the meetings, because I feel like that could be a really good time just to engage with the public and think outside the box in terms of things that we might not be thinking about, but people with trees are thinking about. That's all I have for that.
So there was, I found the tree bulletins on the Arbor Day website, and there was a link there. Yeah, right on the agenda, the arborday.org trees bulletins. And so there's several of those that are there that are nice. They're like, they range like from 4 to 7 pages. And so there's one like how to select and plant a tree. There's living with urban soils. There's 10 tree myths to think about. And so I think some of those have a little bit more nuanced information to them that can be more useful, but I would think that they would be used with, like, we could have like maybe 4 or 5 copies of like 5 or 6 different ones of these to have if someone's really interested in a particular topic, like those 3 that I mentioned.
And so if I'm understanding this, we're thinking that the farmer's market would be obviously a great place to have materials there for people to pick up. And if a tree commissioner is able to be there to talk to, are you thinking about any other kind of interactive opportunity that you might have? Like, I guess I was just thinking about maybe, giving out little tree starts or, a sign, here's your free tree, or with a how to plant your tree guide and why you should love your tree.
Would
I
be
don't-
really cool if we could do something.
I don't know if, I don't know, or if you wanted to create some kind of a volunteerism
Oh,
platform by attending that, and maybe that would be a good way for you to come up with some sort of a volunteer effort to put together people that would be interested in, I mean, I'm just wondering if you had thought about any sort of interactive.
yeah, I think a volunteer sign up is a great idea to just have a sheet where people could sign up to volunteer to assist with the fall planting,
Yeah,
with putting mulch on them
Yeah.
after they're planted, and to help with
mhm.
other help at the municipal nursery if we're able to keep it going and
Well,
in the fall.
that's a good point. The nursery, thinking of the trees that we already have, I know we talked in the past about having some sort of tree giveaway, but maybe along with volunteer signups, like maybe there's people who really want trees in the community, but they don't, maybe know where to start or know where to get one, and we could have a certain number of trees that we're trying to give away and people could sign up for a tree.
Yeah, I think we could do that. Maybe take pictures, have pictures of these trees and
Oh,
What kind of trees?
the ones that we have in.
adopt,
on hand.
kind of like an adopt a tree.
Yeah, we can do an adopt a tree or even just get names of people who might be interested, have them write down their emails so that we can put that together by the fall time at least and send them out something. I mean, we don't have to do it all.
Or
at the
street
farm.
trees, or like, so a lot of people lost their street trees in the renovation thing that's want them back. So could we take a list of people that want a tree, or is that what we're talking about? Cause I like it.
We could do street trees, but we could also do like if they need a tree in their yard.
So either.
We'd have to have approval from the ROA and a lot of the city to do that before we could even give them the tree. Yeah. So it's an extra layer. No, the one that jumped out at me was there were a lot of people that lost their trees and we just said, hey, there's a sewer line running through here or something like that, but they didn't put one further down away from the sewer line. And so they just lost their tree. And so there are some people that would like a replant. They moved here to have a tree. So I like that part of it.
And so could trees that are in the city's nursery now be the ones that are given away?
Yeah, and so the nice thing about, this is if we do the street trees, and if we're only obviously giving the street tree the varieties that are gonna be okay to be a street
Right.
tree,
Yeah,
if we're careful to keep that and it's kind of a win situation for everybody, and the person wants the tree and they want to plant the tree. We're not gifting that tree because that tree is a city asset and it goes into city property. So we're in the clear there.
okay. Yeah, so that's like 3 little signups that we can have, or one sign up and they check the block. I want to volunteer. I want a tree for my yard. I would like a street tree installed in front of my house. And then that gives us some focus on what we want to do.
And then if
Absolutely.
you want to take it one step farther, if you wanted to provide me a list of those trees that you would be offering, I can put those on the website. So people know what trees are available.
Oh, that's excellent. Definitely try to have maples. Like 700.
those weren't on are they on the street tree list?
I think they are, yeah. Right? I think they might be. But we have like 97 of those or something.
That's a really good point too. The ROA needs to align their lists with our lists for what can be planted in the city. Right now, they are different. But ours isn't finalized either, right? Or no, we did finalize it. Yeah, we need to share it with them. No, We finalized for street trees. We didn't do it for landscaping trees.
We were focused on the street trees. We didn't do it for people's trees in their
Okay.
yards, because I don't know if we need to.
Yeah, I don't,
Oh, for property. So leave it to the, yeah,
I-
so leave
I-
all that stuff in the
yeah.
hands of the ROA.
I mean, I think if somebody wants to plant a tree in their yard, that's great. More power to them, less red tape for them, the better. As long as it's not an invasive tree, but that's already regulated by the Noxious Weed Control Board. So,
So we just need to come up with a list of the trees that we have that are that are on our street tree list and how many. So we know how many we could give away. And then that will be a sign up sheet along with the volunteer sign up sheet. And there was another one too.
so my notes were a volunteer sign up. I want a tree for my private property and I would like a street tree in front of my house. So 3 different.
Yeah, and we'd want to minimize, I mean, we'd want the people that want that street tree that would maybe would be willing to plant it themselves. Because otherwise,
Right,
we're
right,
not
yeah,
going to be able
Yeah,
to, you know,
yeah.
deliver.
So and then this is all self-service.
Yeah. We have to clarify that for sure.
Right, yeah.
There's no one that can plant a street tree in what we have.
There's no one that can lift that.
Right, well, but if a homeowner they've got to go through a process. They've got to do a call before you dig to make sure there isn't a sewer line there.
And they're not gonna get through that compacted gravel.
Right, then they've
As,
got to decide, but if that's part of tree ownership in the urban environment is doing those things.
I mean, with it being a street tree and on the city property, would it be? I mean, if they couldn't, like if they wanted a tree and they didn't have means to get the tree there, could we maybe figure out a plan? I don't know how that would.
I think they
work
need to
get
be
the tree.
assessed for, like, some people have 5 feet of property in the front. And so their tree was taken out because it was over water main or whatever it was. And then what they need to sign up for is to be assessed
Yeah,
for the potential for a street tree and then a consultation with what the options are. And then they would have to show means of planting for them to be given the free tree, which is, you need an auger.
and a
I mean,
and a
you need an
promise- and a
auger and
promise
like
to-
2 people.
and, and a promise to follow the care,
Yeah.
the care of that tree.
Right.
That's a great time to have them sign it, like, you've become an urban forest ranger.
So we'll use the QR codes that Kelsey gave us because they're kind of handy and nice there. I might. So one of the tree bulletins is a 10 tree myths to think about, tree myths. And then there is one that's about street tree installation selection.
Yeah.
So maybe to go hand in hand with the sign up.
And-
And those QR codes, they just go to the Arbor Day website the Arbor Foundation website, and it's just general information about trees. So if someone's there and with their phone,
And you're thinking about having, that these would be just put onto like a little flyer? Or maybe put onto
like on a piece of paper on the table there.
on the table, and then they
Or
can
on
just
the
scan it.
picture.
Maybe they could be
Yeah,
laminated or
yeah.
something.
That would be less paper that we're giving
Yeah,
out.
one
Exactly.
sheet, that's-
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then the rest of the information, I already have the poster made, so that could just be something that people could read over that has pretty much the same information that's on the scanning things if you
right.
look through it, but it'll be something.
So I think in terms of the paper ask is just for one each of the QR codes, and then some handouts about treatments and maybe
Mm.
street tree installation guide from the Arbor Day Foundation. And
Yeah.
again, just like a few copies, and if people are interested in it and they take it, then we can make more the next week or not.
Maybe even,
Copies of these documents that you have in the agenda packet, you mean?
we don't need all of
It's
those.
just,
So the last ones,
just
just,
like page 9, right?
yeah,
Just
just
this.
the QR codes. We don't need any of like page 13 through the end. We don't need those because those are all gonna be on the poster already. So those don't, like,
So-
anything past page 13, we don't need.
Okay, so the QR codes, this tree planting and care as a handout on page 9,
Oh, on page.
that,
9. That's probably gonna be kind of repetitive,
Oh,
I feel like, from some of
With
the other
the-
stuff,
oh,
but
okay.
what do you think?
I do feel like, I think I said this before, but we need to go with visuals. We have so many languages in town that it's really time to start adding. If we produce something, it should be more like an infographic with a lot more visual information. I mean, this is heavy on the
Yeah.
good facts. But we do, and that probably means it has to be something access, we're not going to print color copies of brochures and stuff unless we develop something really cool that's going to last for years. So we want it to be something that could be accessed online, maybe with our own QR code going to our own infographic on how to care for these things. Just because people don't read anymore either. They just need sound bites and pictures.
And maybe just having like one copy of our tree care manual on hand too, just so people know what's on the website. I mean, they could go look it up, but.
Yes, so you can see it.
Yeah.
So I think we've got an opportunity next month to finalize what we want to have printed before, but generally what we're thinking, the poster already exists. QR codes for interactive information, and then I'd encourage people to go take a look at the tree bulletins on the Arbor Day website, and they really do give you a whole lot more like nuanced information that I think can be useful. And if we can prioritize a couple of those, it'd be, right? And they do have pictures in them that are, they're not all text. They do have like, this is what good pruning looks like. This is what bad.
I was saying
pruning
lean
looks like.
visual,
That-
lean in visual.
there's a lot of visual there, and then we're not reinventing it. So anything else on the farmers market?
If I sign up, it'll be more in the July, June. So I'm not going to sign up for a particular time yet, but it would definitely be more in the July timeframe. I will be in the midst of some chaos until. then.
Yeah. And so I just keep including that because it's got the dates, and I think there's a lot more interest in the first half of the summer, especially in the beginning. I know over in Stillicombe, it really dies off towards the end of the summer as it gets hot. So
I'm trying to inspire others to sign up for June.
just a consideration for,
Yeah, I'm really busy during June, but I think I selected a couple of dates that I think would work for me. I want to look into it a little bit more, but July 18th and then August 15th, just so it's like 1 month.
Do we just email you the dates where we'll want to,
yeah, I think that would probably be best if
and then
you,
you can deconflict if you have
Yeah,
several people want
yeah,
the same date?
yeah. So if there's like 2 there, that's okay. But if there's 3, then we would need to deconflict.
Yeah.
and I'm thinking we'll just have like a little tree commission box, that
Okay.
has your name on it, that we can just ask Amy Walker and her team to be like, hey, would you mind, getting this and putting this at your booth? So that way you won't have to try to coordinate the materials and things.
Okay.
I think that would be pretty simple for them just to
That'd be
have a
great-
little tote that's got your stuff in it and
greatly appreciated.
Yeah.
yes. Okay, well, we still have some time left, and under new business is planting site prioritization. So I'm gonna ask Janet to try and pull this up. This is a site that hopefully you've seen before, but you might have got frustrated with it and said, I quit. So I wanted to we just looked at it. We did. The gis.davy.com/Puget Sound.
History.
So while they're trying to get that ready, so on our work plan at the end is nursery replenishment. And so I think the best way to think about replenishing the nursery is knowing what do we need? And what do we need starts with where is there room to plant trees? And what's the appropriate place to put them? And so this GIS thing here is kind of difficult to use. So she's zooming around and scrolling around to where we are on the imagery, but on the left side, it says introduction. So on the left side, it gives you the narrative about the data that they've collected. And if you look at it right now, the legend has a bare soil, open water, trees, they're already there because we're in the very beginning of the narrative. So if she goes over to the narrative, and you can either scroll down or you can use the little boxes on the left side, and that tells you about the data. And so when you do that, it automatically rezooms on the right side. It's kind of annoying. But what we want to do is when you use it, you should read through the whole narrative because it talks about the data and the process they use to identify priority planting locations from a data perspective. That is, where is there space where there is no tree, there is no road, there is no water, there is no house, right? Just from the big macro perspective. But it also incorporates things like we want to prioritize planting where they're going to have the most benefits for people. So when we get in there, you see areas close to buildings are kind of higher priority than big open fields. So if Janet on the left side, oh, you're already scrolled down far enough, right? So now the legend has changed to very high, high, moderate, low, very low for priority. And if she kind of zooms in, kind of just as where we are as a good place to start. So down and to the left a little bit. Yeah, right about there. So yeah, so scroll back out just a little bit so we can see how far there. That's good. So you can see how the fidelity got with how big the squares are, right? So it's not really great fidelity, but you can see where she was zoomed in is that big orange block, and that's the block that we recommended for planting for this fall. And it's a high priority planting site because it's near that little depression where water could flow through. And it's an open area without any tree canopy there to really speak of at this point in time. And then you can kind of see in the neighborhoods, there's these little red blocks. They're like kind of areas where there might be a missing street tree or something like that and so if we wanted to be kind of methodical about what trees do we want to have growing in the nursery to provide to the city and the residents, or just the city as appropriate. This gives us a tool to identify those planting locations, because then you go to the planting location, you look, you say, is the soil wet or dry or rocky or whatever here, because that affects what kind of tree would be appropriate to plant there. How much space is there really there? Do we have enough room for a big leaf maple here? Or do we really need to think of some horticultural species to go plant there? And then if we're each able to kind of look at this and identify some areas or neighborhoods to go toward, that would feed a nursery replenishment plan to keep the nursery going on an ongoing basis. So that's why that's here to be shared. Okay, I have talked a whole lot this meeting, it seems like. I'm sorry.
No, that's really helpful because I have tried to use this and I thought it was helpful, but I didn't have like I didn't realize there was like the planting priorities and everything. I just kind of used it to see where there were trees and there weren't trees. So
Yeah.
this is really cool.
Now, one thing I just want to ask, somebody mentioned that the farmer's market, there was some change in the dates, you know?
Oh,
Yeah.
Were there?
Somebody mentioned to me that the farmer's market, for some reason, there's a time difference or some date change. Everybody aware of that? Just so, you know,
No, but well, we can, maybe the schedule's online. I'll find out if,
the thing which was mentioned was that some of the vendors
Oh.
were not available at that time, so they have just delayed the farmer's market.
I'm not aware of it. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, so I went off what was published on the website on that list of dates that I included with the agenda. But yeah, obviously the farmer's market website is the source of information for the dates for that. So any comments or thoughts on the planting site prioritization, nursery replenishment ideas? I think that could be. Right, yeah, and it's just a matter of us kind of as we drive around, think about and relate it back to a data-based approach and then I think if we see bigger areas, hey, maybe we should put some trees in here, then we can look at that and see, does this data support this as a higher priority place or a lower priority place? And we can bring that together. And then I'm pretty adept at looking at a site and identifying this is good soil, bad soil. It's going to be really dry here. It's really wet.
Yeah.
And which would drive what kind of trees we want to.
Did we have landscape tree list? I got lost when we were doing the ROA thing, but I think we still needed to develop the landscape tree list. Would we want to put those in the nursery too, landscapes and shrubs?
What do you mean by the landscape tree?
So we came up with a street tree list, and I thought there was a separate one for city grounds landscaping that we had yet to do. Now I'm going back a year and a half because it took us that long to do the street trees. But I'm having a recollection that we have not done the landscape tree list yet, because there was supposed to be understory as part of that as well. And I think those are some of the things we'd want to grow too over there
Remember having that discussion,
Yeah.
but it kind of like
with
backed
Larry.
out because the street tree case, but, yeah, I mean, the idea, especially when we're talking about having, you know, native plants and all of that, like they're all going to work together. So the idea of planting trees that are gonna need, you know, the understory and then everything else that kind of goes along with it, like that is something that we should look at in terms of like the future, and if we're thinking of putting more of that in the comprehensive plan and whatnot, like how can we have stuff in our nursery that reflects the native uh, trees and shrubs that are supposed to go there.
Well, a couple of things that, I mean, this is all really great information. I mean, I think it's really coming together is that tool could also be used to steer our policies or our goals. I'm not sure which it would be to be very specific. So one of the things that happens with comprehensive plan policies is they tend to be way too general, right? But this tool could be used to be very specific about areas where it is the city's goal to see tree coverage in these areas. And I really like that idea because then it's, you know, it's enough detail to be able to implement something.
Well, the cool thing about it is that it's so visual that
Mhm.
people who may not be grasping what we're talking about can actually see almost the deserty areas where
Yeah.
you need to put the
Right.
trees we're talking about.
And then the other thing to Commissioners Clark, your thought here is one of the things that we struggle with in the DMC is we have buffer requirements, we have landscaping requirements for future development. And we have buffer, but it's very vague in terms of, you know, it doesn't really give us a good guideline when we're looking at a landscape plan to figure out whether or not it meets what we want to see in a landscape plan. Like you suggest, well, you really need to have some, you know, some trees and some understory and probably would want to think about prioritizing native species. And we do have something we say, you know, about wanting to have drought tolerant species, but there's a lot of, I mean, that's where I think that we would plug that into. That would be helpful.
And it's just as I think we need to wrap it pretty soon. So I'll have my one comment from, I'll just put it under the announcements from members and staff liaison as myself. I'll go first. And it's to the issue of, you know, specifying species for landscape trees or approved species in a person's yard or in the landscaped area of a development. That's you could spend you could spend a year crafting that list and still not not have something that's comprehensive and that somebody else is going to want to I think some language that prioritizes natives with as much force as is as reasonable as the city's willing to do is appropriate. But the street tree is a perfect example of where the local native options aren't appropriate. And so you've got to allow other things, but we also obviously don't want to have an invasive thing going on. So I think within those three, prioritize native, no invasives, but recognize that horticultural varieties are necessary to get what we want. And then which horticulture ones do you not want? There's millions out there, so it just becomes way too cumbersome.
Again, from what you're saying, prioritization is really important. Annotation has to be really important. Again, like you said, it is area specific, but m- plans mostly I've seen is they stress more on canopy cover, basically, number one. That has been the top, you know. And
Right.
secondly, of course, you know, depending on the area, uh, we have a lot of rainfall. Some areas are arid, you know. So that's a big concern. And the other thing is, you know, in places which do not, which are away from. So there's a lot of that. So it will be a big thing to come up with a criteria.
Right, yeah, yeah, I think that's kind of, I
But
think,
there are models out there, like I said. There are models out there.
yeah. So going on with, announcement. Liaison. So Carol, did you have anything you wanted to share? Bridget, do you have anything?
Couple things. First of all, we removed a 15-year-old evergreen. I think it was a cedar from my mother-in-law's house, and that is $1,600. So just, tinkering with trees is a lot. And so that's why careful planting and choice is, it's good to dwell on that. I'm glad we got that down before it got any more expensive. Second, I still trying to connect with Corey Larson to come talk to us about culturally modified trees. So again, we're the home of several and, it'd be nice to have a talk. And I don't know if it's something we could do because we meet so early, doing it before tree board or during tree board, but, somehow having him come do a talk and walk or something. So I'm still talking to him about that and still hopeful we'll get that done. Hopefully before fall or somewhere, probably will be around fall. And the third thing was, 16th on Tree Talk is, Mediterranean oak borer. Is that something that's a seminar from DNR? And since we have oaks are our precious, is, I was thinking you might know.
Right, so I saw two things about oak borers, and one was the one that's down in Oregon that's moving north. Is it
They
from the
obviously
DNR?
want people, so I don't know if there's something we need to get out ahead of, but the seminar webinar is on the 16th
Okay,
at DNR. Go Alex.
we'll look out for that. Kelsey, do you have anything else?
I just wanted to say thank you to Alex and Mohammed for coming out to the tree walk and giving so much good information and really helping me. It would have been really boring if it was just me leading. So they did an awesome job at helping out. I think we had maybe 7 people come. Some were like family members and whatnot, but there were a few community members and also someone who wasn't even from DuPont that was just really interested in coming. And I think everyone had a really great time. It lasted 2 hours, so it was good. Alex took us to a Pacific U that was down in one of the trails, so there was a little added bonus. But I had a lot of fun, and I could definitely see us doing those maybe more in the future. Maybe it's a annual Arbor Day little fun thing we could do. But it really just kind of showed like what information's most useful. I think a lot of people were really interested in the culturally modified trees. So, having that talk would be really cool because
Hot
there were
on the
questions
trail.
people had asked that, I mean, I don't know very much. Someone had asked, is a Douglas fir like the main species of tree that they would use for that? Like, oh, I don't know. So having
Well,
someone who
Hanford,
knows
Alex,
more would be
well,
really,
were you there too when Hanford came to
yeah.
Tree Talk and told us all about the bark ripping and everything? I mean,
Yeah, so
that
we
was
had talked about that
amazing.
too,
Yeah, so there's
walk, yeah.
2 angles on the culturally modified tree that we could go for. And, we could set up a series. Depends on whether people want money to come talk.
And then
Hopefully not.
Mohammed did take pictures, so I sent those, and I don't know if we can get those uploaded on the website or anything? Did you get the
Um,
pictures?
I didn't get them, but if
Okay,
you
I'll
want to.
resend them.
send them,
I
yeah.
thought I did, but I will resend them, cause they're pretty good photographs from that tree walk. It was fun. So thank you.
Ahmed, did you have any last comment? Okay. Do you have any announcements?
No, actually, I'm done.
And then, any announcements from the staff or comments?
No, good meeting though, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. So in response to a cultural modified person, I forget his name, we could have him at, not our regular scheduled meeting time as a presentation,
Yeah, we could
And
just list
so-
it as a city talk or something.
yeah,
We've
like
had,
we did with the
Yeah.
walk. So
Mhm.
just as a, to mention that as a scheduling option.
will do.
Yeah, I
And-
think that might get some real interest, actually.
Oh, yeah, regional.
And so with that, I'll adjourn the meeting of the Tree Advisory Commission at 6:10 PM.